The opening ceremonies of the Olympics are just 4 days away, and competitions in soccer and softball actually begin tomorrow night. But the specter of COVID hangs over these games. More than 50 people in Tokyo connected with the games have tested positive. That includes contractors and staff. It also includes some athletes, among them an alternate on the U.S. gymnastics team who tested positive while training outside Tokyo. Olympic officials say they hope to put on a compelling series of games despite it all. With that in mind, we have a preview of some of the Americans to watch. I spoke with Christine Brennan of USA Today shortly before she left for Tokyo for her 19th Olympics Games. Christine Brennan, good to have you with us again. Let's start, Christine, with an athlete who brings probably the highest hopes around her, and that would be Simone Biles, the gymnast who's already won so many gold medals. Tell us, what are the expectations for her this time?
Judy, I don't think I have ever seen an athlete more discussed, hyped, on more covers, on the tip of everyone's tongue, social media, than Simone Biles going into an Olympic Games. I mean, we've had great stars going into the Olympics before from the United States and from around the world. Nothing like this. And that's well-deserved, absolutely well-deserved, the greatest gymnast ever, coming back for another Olympic Games, trying to recreate what she did in Rio 5 years ago, which was 4 gold medals and 1 bronze, and maybe even win all 5 gold medals. She is the strong favorite to win the all-around competition, to lead the U.S. to the team competition, and then to win a couple of gold medals on various apparatuses in those competitions. She's a survivor of the worst sexual abuse scandal in the history of sports, a survivor of Larry Nassar, the absolutely tragic and horrible sexual assault and sexual abuse of hundreds and hundreds of young gymnasts by the former USA gymnastics team doctor. And Simone Biles is the one who was calling out the organization, the national governing body, time and again, being that voice for the survivors. She's also the greatest in her sport ever. Truly remarkable.
Truly remarkable. A lot of anticipation, Christine, also around swimming. Tell us who to look for there.
Katie Ledecky is the other huge name to watch going into these Olympic Games. Katie Ledecky was the star of the Rio Olympics and is coming back trying to defend those titles, freestyle 200, 400, 800, and the 1500. First time ever that women will be able to swim the mile, the 1500 at an Olympics. It's a well past overdue, Judy. Men started swimming it in 1904. So only 117 years later. It's ridiculous it took that long for the International Olympic Committee to add the women's mile in swimming. But Katie Ledecky's favored to win that. She's favored to win the 800. It's going to be a little tough for her in the 200 and maybe the 400, her signature events as well, because Australia has got a couple of very strong competitors. And then on the men's side, Caleb Dressel. He's not Michael Phelps. He's not going to win, 7 or 8 Olympic gold medals, but he will probably win. I think he's favored to win 3 individual golds, and he'll be on several relays. And Dressel also is a name to watch for the Americans.
Such high interest in swimming. And then there's track and field. And Christine, there's probably more being said now about who isn't going to be running. And of course, that's Sha'Carri Richardson, who was taken off the U.S. team, but it does appear to be starting a conversation that wasn't had before about the role of marijuana in these games.
That's right, Judy, and it's an important conversation to have. Richardson, of course, was destined for greatness. Was going to be the gold medal favorite in the women's 100-meter dash, the marquee event of track and field, and would also have been on the relay team for the U.S. And because she said she ingested marijuana not long after finding out that her biological mother had died, she went into an emotional tailspin, and that's how she reacted. Because she tested positive for marijuana, which is a banned substance, even though a lot of us think that's ridiculous, the World Anti-Doping Code says it is, and she knew it. And to her great credit, despite the controversy and despite the questions about whether this should or should not be banned, she accepted it. She didn't try to lie or get out of it. She, with dignity, with grace, with class, Sha'Carri Richardson, I think, really is holding herself in good stead, Judy, for the future. But perhaps this will lead that conversation and move the World Anti-Doping Agency to take marijuana off its ban list. As this is obviously that kind of high-profile case that would lead to that conversation.
Sha'Carri Richardson will be missed. I mean, Christine, the other part of the women running story is how many mothers there are who are going to be running this year.
That's right. And this is, Judy, just as is the fact that 54% of the U.S. Olympic team is women. For the third straight time, more women than men on the U.S. Olympic team. This is all about Title IX. This is about the law signed by Richard Nixon in June of 1972, almost 50 years ago now, that opened the floodgates for women and girls to play sports. And so someone like Allison Felix, the great star in her fifth now Olympic Games, track and field star for the U.S., as a mom, she has been leading the way in this conversation about pay from Nike for if you're pregnant, you should still get your money and your contract, and also for grants for women athletes who are also mothers. Then you throw in the pandemic. And what happened was over the last few months, thankfully, the Japanese Olympic organizers have relented, but they weren't going to allow women who are breastfeeding to bring their babies with them. So competitors, athletes, and wouldn't let them actually have their babies. Thankfully, they changed their mind. The kids can come. The moms can do what they're doing on the field, and they can be moms off the field.
A reminder of how many of these women's teams are being so closely watched.
Oh, that's right. I mean, you know, we tend to talk about basketball. We think about the men, right? The dream team and all of that. Well, the dream team is women's basketball. And going back, the U.S. women's Olympic basketball team has not lost, Judy, since 1992. Barcelona, 1992. This is the most dominant team in the history of sports. They just simply do not lose. And the odds are that they will win again. They've got some great stars. Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, longtime Olympians are back. This is a professional team, mostly WNBA stars, and they will be favored to win the gold medal again.
And we also will see some history made in that there will be, for the first time, some openly transgender athletes competing.
This is something that time has come, and it's a conversation that I think many people are having, whether it be at the high school level, college, pro, and also at the Olympics. And back in 2015, Judy, the International Olympic Committee mandated that transgender athletes could compete, transgender women in particular could compete as long as they met the testosterone levels in the body, that they would have to be lowered than what they would be for men. So in the case of the New Zealand weightlifter, Laurel Hubbard, she has been taking testosterone suppressants or whatever she has done to be able to be in the competition. And as a man, she competed in weightlifting and now will be competing as a woman. Obviously, transgender rights are such an important topic. This is the obvious fruition of that the greatest competition on earth, the Olympic Games, would allow a transgender athlete to compete.
Well, there's always so much excitement around these Olympic Games. We are so glad to be able to look ahead with you, Christine Brennan, at games that are going to be historic one way or another, taking place in the middle of this pandemic. Christine Brennan, thank you so much.
Judy, my pleasure. Thank you.
And we look forward to hearing from her during the games when they get underway in the next few days.